Good morning, everyone. I will call to order this Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is July 15th, 2025, 10 a.m. We'll start with a salute to the flag. If Mr. Roger Edwards could lead us in the salute to the flag.
Join me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, sir. We'll now move into roll call. Madam Clerk.
Alexis Hirschelt.
Here.
Chair. Jean Herman, Vice Chair. Here. Mike Clark.
Present.
Mariluz Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Andriola is absent. Interim Manager Kate Thomas. Here. Chief Deputy DA Mike Large.
Present.
Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We'll now move into item 3. Manager Thomas.
Thank you. Item number 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Unused time may not be allocated to other speakers. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the board as a whole. Virtual public comment may be taken when facilities are available, and a speaker's viewpoint will not be restricted. However, reasonable restrictions may be imposed upon the time, place, and manner of speech. Irrelevant statements, unduly repetitious statements, and personal attacks that would objectively antagonize or incite others are examples of speech that may be reasonably limited. The Board of County Commissioners carries out the business of Washoe County and its residents during its meetings. The presiding officer may order a person removed if the person's conduct or statements disrupt the order or safety of the meeting. Warnings about disruptive conduct or comments may or may not be given prior to removal. Furthermore, certain disruptions of a public meeting are criminal acts as defined under NRS, which may result in prosecution in appropriate cases.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
First up, we have our County Treasurer, Justin Taylor, followed by Terry Brooks.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Manager. Not why I want to be here today. My name is Justin Taylor. I'm your County Treasurer. It's been brought to my attention yesterday that the recreation and beach fees for the Incline Village General Improvement District, known as IVGID, are not billed correctly on the tax bills that are currently being mailed. These bills will be hitting the mail today, tomorrow, the next day. For entities like IVGID, we request that they add their charges onto our tax bill. We require an uploaded file to be submitted to our office with parcel number, special assessment code, and charge amounts, which we upload directly into my system. In the case of IVGID, unbeknownst to us at the time of the billing, the file provided was incorrect. And I will get quick here in just saying that the majority of the bills are going to be correct. However, the beach fee and the rec fee have been flipped. So the beach fee represents the rec fee represents the beach fee. We have roughly about 540 parcels that are affected, whose amounts will go up, because in this chaos of flipping the parcels, they just were not reflected in their file. We will be getting on those first, and those folks will be given extra time to make payments. We will be working with everybody the best we can. Currently, I'm working with IVGID to get the correct file and to begin the process of correcting all the affected tax bills. Now, I say all the corrected tax bills. We need to correct them all because there's a GL that hits each one of these. So if I don't correct all 8,000, it would not look good in audit. So this is going to severely impact my office. We are in the preliminary stages of working with our contractor for. Forgive me, I'm not happy right now. With our software company to see if there's something that we can do that would make this go significantly faster. However, I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to. This is a months and months correction process, which you will see me back here, unfortunately, asking for postage and paper and billing and printing costs. I will be asking IVGID to cover these costs. However, in the interim, I may be here in front of you.
For cash, yeah.
Yeah, making that argument. I've spoken with Bob Harrison, the general manager. He's passed along his apologies, as has Susan, which I passed to you folks, because I'm not going to have time to get to everything. My timer's not going.
You're our elected treasurer, so
Okay,
the clerk
I've been-
graciously gave you a bit more time
I
on
appreciate
this
it.
issue, so I
Okay,
really
well
appreciate
then
your transparency, so
I'll-
you can continue
Yeah,
on.
so in an effort of transparency is why I'm in front of you right now, just so,
Thank
so
you.
that everybody knows.
Sure.
This is not something that needed to come from somewhere else. It needed to come from my office. And in Susan's submission, she unfortunately had a conflicting appointment this morning, which is why she couldn't make it. But in here, she says, as Director of Services for the Incline Village General Improvement, and I'm going to ad lib here, or not ad lib, but brush over has been discovered by our agency, along with Washoe County's assistance, that the facility fees, recreation fees, and beach fees were reversed when the billing was submitted to Washoe County. This was a human error. It'll be corrected by the end of day today. That may be on their end, but it will not be corrected in my office. Hopefully they can get their stuff done by the end of day today. I don't know what that entails. IVGID recognizes that this request would result in tax bills having to go out. We hope that the original cost of $1,000, that's our programming cost that we forward on to them to put the bills on the tax bill. We apologize for the unfortunate error. That is not verbatim. I did breeze right through her letter,
Right.
but you've all been provided a copy of that. Questions, please fire away.
Okay, well, I see that Ms. Heron is signed in from Incline Village, so hopefully she'll be able to address this as well later in public comment, and so
Okay.
thank you so much. And I guess for me, is there going, I mean, I'm assuming not, but would there be cash flow issues with the county because we have to tell people not to pay their bills and?
So, and thank you for saying that. I'm not, I should have finished with, we're going to ask everybody to pay their bill as
Okay.
is. And we'll issue refunds.
Okay.
As it is. The majority of the bills are going to be fine. They're just transposed, but they need to be corrected anyhow. But I do wish that they would make their payments timely to avoid penalty.
Sure.
And we will absolutely send them the refund that they're due at that time.
Okay.
When we get to it.
And we'll work with the IVGID to message that out. And I'm hearing we were going to do a press release on this as well.
That's 100% correct, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I've reached out to IVGID and I've asked them to get with their constituents because they have their phone numbers and what have you. I don't.
Right.
So hopefully they will reach out to their folks and let them know where we sit right now.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
that update.
Not why I want to be here.
Yes, I know. Just, if there are any other board, Vice Chair Herman, it looks like you want to sign in. No, okay. Commissioner Garcia, do you have any questions? And Commissioner Clark, do you have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to salute the treasurer for coming forward with this. I want to salute the treasurer for coming forward with this. This is exactly what we need. When something goes awry, somebody needs to see something, say something, and this is an example of doing that, letting everybody know. And I'm glad you reached out to the interim county manager and reported this and brought it to everyone's attention. This could turn into a real problem. People are human. People make mistakes. I'm not a perfectionist. Never have been. But when you catch something like this, it needs to be brought forward so it could be dealt with and put in the right way. So thank you for standing up and bringing this to the attention of the county. And I segue right into another comment on another item on the agenda today. that deals with a similar situation where things went awry and nobody actually acted on it. And we'll talk about this further, but item 7C1 is a situation where things went awry for 3 years and it really never came to the surface. So this avoids things like that happening. So thank you very much for doing this, bringing it to our attention.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. We need to stay out in front of this. I don't want to see any bad info going out there. What you've got from me is the gospel, if that's okay to say. And, you know, I appreciate your time. I did try to reach out to you each individually. I know you're very, very vigil, very, very busy. Reach out to me anytime. I'm here.
Thank you. So the top line information, pay your bills.
Pay your bills.
If you live in Incline Village, and we will refund you if there was a mistake in those 500 bills that we identified.
100% correct. And
Okay.
that's 500 to 600. I don't have an exact answer because we've got two conflicting.
Okay. And we'll have Washoe 311 ready to address questions, and we'll work with
Absolutely.
IGID.
And yeah, we will put on the press release IGID's general number and their email. And then obviously my office is open for business and questions. And I expect
Wonderful.
we'll be getting a few.
Yes. Well, thank you, Treasurer Taylor. We really appreciate it, and we'll just stay in touch.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Hope your meeting goes well.
Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, next public commenter.
Next up, we have Terry Brooks, followed by Diane Becker.
It's a good thing the timer's on, because you don't want to put up with me for more than 3 minutes.
We
Good.
love your poems. Go
Oh, thank
on.
you. Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks, again. And today I came here to face the act of discrimination when it comes to education and race. When I was a child in the Midwest, there were several elementary schools in town. For 4 years, I happened to attend the only integrated elementary school in town. There were several elementary schools where only the majority could attend, and there was one elementary school where only a particular minority could attend. Most of the school districts there were racially segregated. I happened to live in a district that was not segregated. So kids in a segregated district wound up attending a segregated school, while kids in an integrated district attended our integrated school. Then we wound up moving to a segregated district, and I went to a segregated school. All the kids were of the majority race who attended that elementary school. I felt like something was missing, but then I went to junior high school. It was integrated with a variety of kids, and then so was my high school. I heard that some minority kids could ride a school bus, but had to sit in a designated seat. And they could go to an integrated school, but in the school cafeteria, they weren't allowed to eat. Some minority parents worry about their kids going to schools. The minority kids may have to follow different kinds of rules. And if the majority kids at that school act as if they are superior, then the minority kids at that school may feel like they're treated as inferior. Some people of the majority say people of the majority do better on IQ tests, but they don't mention that it's the majority who made the IQ tests. If there was a report card on public education, it would be a report card on our entire nation. When kids go to school, the best way for them to learn is to get to know each other, and then they'll learn how to learn. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I look forward to coming back when I've learned what I should say.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Diane Becker, followed by Thomas Daly.
Good morning. I'm a full-time resident of Incline Village, and I'm here to address Agenda Item 8 and ask that the Commissioners reject the proposals in this Development Code amendment that allow taller, denser buildings along Highway 28, our evacuation route. The proposal is to allow 6-story buildings, very little or no setbacks, and much higher density and concentration, without any study of how this will impact public safety, especially in the event of wildfire evacuation. The community has expressed its concern throughout the process. We have requested that TARPA do a study as to the impact of this on the public safety, and there has been none done. At pages 4, 5, and 11 of the staff report, you'll see that staff tells you that TARPA rejected the safety requests that have been proposed by staff with very limited exceptions. TARPA is requiring that the exact language that TARPA mandates be accepted. Also, what's troubling, and it's stated in those pages, is that TARPA rejected most of the safety concerns without study. And now, of course, the county cannot study them because they've been rejected. Even more troubling in the process, TARPA told Washoe County it could not even consider evacuation impacts when proposing these changes to the Tahoe area plan amendment. So these critical concerns were never followed through. Anyone who comes to Lake Tahoe on the weekends has seen the terrible traffic jams we already have. What is going to happen when all of Tahoe Boulevard, think about it, where all those little single-story buildings are on both sides of the streets, have 6-story buildings filled to the brim with people? My colleague Roxana Dunn and I presented to you evacuation concerns on current existing populations, not considering any of these increases. TARPA's own ordinance 12.6.3 allows local jurisdictions to adopt alternate provisions if they meet or exceed thresholds, and that's what the county even tried to show on small things. But the county was told you can't even try to show it to us on evacuation. This is not a collaboration. This is top-down planning from TARPA that ignores the unique vulnerabilities of smaller, isolated communities like Incline, which lack the infrastructure of places like South Lake Tahoe. We don't have the ability to handle this. Incline residents feel increasingly unheard in a process dominated by larger California jurisdictions and more political influence from California. And now the California laws in California mandating certain action by counties to increase, quote, workforce housing are now being implemented into Washoe County through Incline Village. We ask that you help protect the public safety of your Incline and Crystal Bay residents, workers, and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas Daly, followed by Isla Arbatman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. For the record, Thomas Daly, a resident of Washoe County, and I would ask that my comments today be entered into the record. With respect to consent item 7C2, the planned audit schedule, missing is an audit of the interlocal agreement between the Washoe County Sheriff and the City of Reno for forensic and crime lab services. This agreement was last audited in 2014. As a result of that audit, your predecessors terminated the agreement, finding it to be a detriment to county taxpayers over a period of 7 years, enriching Reno to the tune of several $1 million. While a subsequent agreement was reached in 2021, there was no obligation for an audit. There was no staff report. There was no staff presentation. It was a consent item. In 2021, testimony by then Reno Police Chief Soto before his city council claimed that he would be using $1.6 million in forensic and crime lab services, but would only be paying the county $1 million. Who paid the $600,000 difference? I think you can guess the answer to that. For the past 5 years, this multi-million-dollar agreement has not been the subject of an audit by the county auditor or your outside auditor. The sheriff has made no presentation to you to report on how the agreement has proceeded. Perhaps his appearance before you to brief you on the economics of the agreement might be in the public interest. I encourage you to direct the county auditor to audit this agreement and have the sheriff appear at an upcoming meeting to update you and the public on this important interlocal agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ilya Arbatman, followed by DeAndre Burleson.
Hi, Ilya Arbatman for the record. I am here today as a representative of Laundry to the People, a local mutual aid project serving the county that is entirely volunteer driven and community funded. The word mutual aid, which has come kind of into common parlance recently, has long history. We won't get into that, but in sort of contemporary 2025, it basically means extending kind of the idea of what it means to be a neighbor to sort of your larger community, right? So just like if your neighbor was sick or came home after having a baby, you would bring them a meal. Mutual aid kind of takes that model and applies it to everybody that, you know, lives nearby you, which is basically, right, everybody. Just like with your neighbor, right, you don't necessarily need to be best friends in order to offer a helping hand. Mutual aid takes that concept and basically tries to create a form of community solidarity that does not depend on institutions, assistance programs, government initiatives, and things like that. In the staff report, so the reason I'm saying this is because District 2 has very kindly offered a donation through RISE to Laundry to the People, and that's item 7D. There's not much info in the staff report, so I'm just going to give a really quick story or just background of Laundry to the People. We started in 2021, sort of at the low point of the pandemic as far as social services went. In January of 2021, when there was a lot of people living on Commercial Row, we saw an opportunity to do something very simple, which is basically help people do their laundry, would reduce waste in the river, and also help in a really big way to get people cleaned up, feeling better about themselves, and generally more empowered to do whatever happens next, right? At the time, it was pretty unclear what was going to happen next. And we've been around for about 4.5 years. We partner with different laundromats. So we've worked with Mr. Bubbles, no longer Mr. Bubbles, on Wells and 2nd. We worked with Mr. Bubbles in Sparks also, on Victorian and Rock. And currently, we're working out of Champion Laundry at Wells and Vassar. Basically, every Friday from noon to 1, we just hang out at the laundromat. We pay for people's laundry. We bring supplies. There's no obligation to do anything. There's no intake form. It's basically you show up and we help you get your laundry done. We serve a lot of people. Sean, who's speaking after me, is somebody that we have served. We've served people who are living in their cars, people who are going through hard times, who are inside, outside, doesn't matter. And we're generally completely community funded, which means just basically donations, right? Laundry to the People is not a 501c3. And we really appreciate the county's partnership, and I think this can be a model. We don't have to agree about everything politically in order to come together on certain issues, and I think this is a great way for us to work together and help the community directly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
DeAndre Burleson.
All right, good morning. I guess I am a client of one of his, so I just want to share that with you that he takes care of my immediate needs on Fridays, and so we go to the laundromat and we wash our clothes and we converse and we have interactions, so I like to say that it is true. That's a true statement. I'm one of his guys. All right, so let's get started. Standard Reno Housing Authority receipt, I guess. So I went July the 2nd and July the 3rd, and I put in some paperwork. Standard, I am currently on the waiting list. She's waiting for 3 properties. As soon as one becomes available, she will call me. Blase, that sounds like good news. So the next thing I'd like to address is the standard expenditures, which are the following. My RTC bus pass. Can you see that? And then my Metro PCS bill. And the next one is the standard Motel 6 at Livestock. The last couple of things is I went to LabCorp and did some blood work, and this is the verification that I did that. I had a couple of bills at LabCorp as well that I paid for, and I'd like to share that with you as well. I seen a psychologist at WellCare, and this is the correspondence that coincides with that appointment. I did medical as well, of course, with the lab work. The last thing I'd like to address is that obviously I'm currently homeless, and I'm kind of fond of occasionally. And so the homeless community is, I don't say in an uproar, but in I don't know. I still like to share that the homeless community has found to me, and they share with me that people are assaulting me in my sleep, like either my personal property, my personal belongings, my body. They're doing it with evil and malice intent. So I would like to share that with you, and I would like to apply symbolically what I shared with you with these two incident reports. From my understanding, it's a 30-day window, and so I don't know where to go with that exactly outside of the observer report. But I'd like to share that with you, that I'm being assaulted or some kind of criminal activity with me and these people. So I just wanted to share that. But other than that, all is well. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Burleson. And Manager Thomas, can we see where that shallow subsidy is for Mr. Burleson? Because I know we're looking into that.
Yep, we'll make sure we follow up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
That's everybody here in chambers that signed in, but we'll transition to Incline Village where we have Susan Herron. Susan Herron, you're up. Okay.
Thank you. We just had to unmute. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to make a public comment. My name is Susan Herron, and I'm the Director of Administrative Services for the Incline Village General Improvement District. I would like to acknowledge the consideration of Treasurer Taylor. I appreciate his assistance in the error that we have uncovered. The facility fees, the recreation and beach facilities were reversed when they were submitted to Washoe County for billing on the 25-26 tax bills. This was a human error, and it will be corrected by the end of the day today on our end. We apologize for this error and appreciate the help from the Washoe County team. IVGID recognizes that this will require reissuing all of the tax bills, and it is our sincerest desire that can be accomplished by Washoe County at no cost or at the cost originally billed, which is $1,000. We appreciate and value our collaborative working relationship with Washoe County. And I would like to address Chair Hill's question about cash flow. There is no impact to Washoe County cash flow, as these are pass-through fees. And I'd also like to let you know that with the reversal is an underbilling to those who got the rec fee without beach access, so there will be a small amount of about $65 more on their bill. So there should be no refunds issued. It should be a little bit more owed. And Commissioner Hill, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. I really appreciate you clarifying, and we'll make sure that we add that to our press release when we work with IVGID to issue that. And we appreciate you coming out to give us those specifics.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm available anytime you need to talk.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up in Incline, we have Ann Nichols.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to speak briefly about what appears to be the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different response. And so TRPA is a perfect example of this. What they started doing in 2012, they changed the regional plan to increase density, height, and coverage. That was to build more things, more large developments. They came up with 8 large developments, one of which was Boulder Bay that's now in foreclosure. I guess it's going to sale today, so we'll find out what happens. It's had a couple of extensions. So those 8 big projects haven't been done, and it didn't work. So what they did now is they have done phase 2 housing, which is more height, density, and coverage. And again, nothing is being built. In fact, they've changed the definition of affordable housing, and now they've found that they can't get financing for the new definition, which has no income cap. I want to say Governor Lombardo's definition that he came up with just now it makes a lot more sense. Instead of no income cap, it's 150% of the average median income. Much more sensible than TRPA. And so then now TRPA is doing phase 3, which is going to be increasing height density and coverage and increasing the cap on development, which they said was firm and would not be exceeded. So it's kind of crazy. And when they talk about affordable housing, if it has a small a, it means one thing. If it has a capital A, it means another. And we're supposed to pay attention to this. One has no income cap, one does. So does this sound crazy to you? It does to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move into item 4, Manager Thomas.
Thank you. Item 4 is Commissioners and County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Do you have anything for us?
I have 3 very quick
Great.
items, if I may. I wanted to mention that on this agenda, we will have virtual public comment for item number 8. I know that wasn't notated on the agenda, so just for the public's information. I'll remind us that our next board meeting is not until August 19th. After this, we go into a slight summer gap period here. So I wanted to get that on everybody's calendar. And then lastly, because of that break, I wanted to re-announce, I'll channel Commissioner Andrew Ellison, she's not here, and re-announce the Budget 101 and the Washoe County checkbook demonstration that's coming up next week on July the 22nd at 5:30, where we will have an introductory look at funding sources and expenditures with a focus on the new online Washoe checkbook. So we invite you to join us for that.
Thank you. Vice Chair Herman? Do you have anything?
I just wanted to say that I agree with Commissioner Clark on 7C1. So.
Thank you. And Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reserve my comments. I want to talk about, as I said earlier, 7C1.
Okay.
And also item 8 when that comes up. So
Great.
I'll just keep my comments to those items. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move into item 5, our presentations. We'll start with 5A1, Manager Thomas.
Thank you. We invite the University of Nevada, Reno Extension Coordinator and Director up for a presentation on their annual budget.
Welcome.
Good morning, Holly Gatsky for the record with UNR Extension.
And I'm Abby Pike, the Washoe County Coordinator for Extension.
Great. So we're here in our regular discussion annually to talk about our proposed budget in our partnership and collaboration to do extension work in Washoe County and to fulfill the NRS 549.020. And so we'll just give you a quick rundown. You have the memo in front of you with the information. It's kind of basic this year in that we do have an increase to $2.4 million of property tax that is expected to be collected in this fiscal year that we just started. That tends to, once we crunch the numbers, match our increased costs that we're facing right now. So we're thankful that that increase is happening so that we can maintain and keep our activities going. Under that first one, you'll see that the state and federal funding we expect to come in at about $600,000. The sponsored projects, which are grants, we did have it at 2.1, but I sadly have to say we are not going to meet that. We just have noticed that we've lost the SNAP Ed funding. It's been zeroed out, which will be a loss of 7 Washoe positions and over $700,000 of income for that in our office alone. A few campus positions, which is Rethink Your Drink and a few others, as well as subcontractors that we have, several subcontractors under that grant for the state in Washoe County. So that will be a huge impact and change for Washoe County's education in teaching people healthy living and education. I would like people to keep an eye on what happens long-term in the future, because we have shown that this type of education, for every dollar spent, saves about $9 in medical costs in the future. And so in the long run, and that takes a long time to hit society, there will be impacts to that. And we also have several grants right now beyond that that are also in an unknown status, not in a good status from federal funding. So we sadly will see that drop, and are working hard to figure out how to move forward and see what new opportunities come up, and we'll continue doing that. So to continue with the budget itself, with that projected revenue, we do have 2.7 million, and I'll explain and carry an opening balance funds on how that's set aside and why. Not all of it, but how we plan to use it. I can tell you that 2.25 million will be used just for personnel costs. So the majority, 93.6% of the annual budget that we expect to come in, will be spent on our people that are on the ground doing education, making a difference. And we will continue with our core programs, but we're also in the process of evaluating what are the needs and making sure that we're dialed in, and we'll continue our regular conversations with you all on what you see as being a value for Washoe County and other heavy or important collaborators with us. The rest of it is, I can go through detail, but really it's operating, and it's such a small portion of the rest of the budget. That's what it is basically keeping us going in overhead costs and small amount of travel, those types of things. So those are the things that we have. We do have a slight increase in personnel costs, and I can say that we will be hiring more part-time students on to help us do things. And the other significant thing is we just hired Bob Potts on, who used to be the leader of GoEd, and we're thrilled to have him as part of the team looking at our economic development. We've had 2 recent retires, or one in a month retire, and Tom Harris had retired for a few months. So we're making sure that our economic development programs continue, and looking at workforce type programs with Bob in collaborations with Clark County and other areas of the state, but he's right here working with me. So we're thrilled to have that kind of level of expertise and knowledge to help us continue dialing in excellent programs for the public. Other than that, I'm just humming through, because really it's not that much different. If you go to the last page on contingency, a lot of people want to know what we're doing with this high amount of carryover. Mm-hmm. For us to wind down our operations, if anything ever so happened, it would cost us about $1 million in contracts and obligations with our personnel. Not that we ever want to go there, but we want to ensure that we're not creating a burden to society if anything ever happens. So that is what we have. And we also have a building fund. We recognize that with these layoffs and such, we now have a change again, that we may not have the shortage of building space, but we're still short of classroom space and things like that. And we anticipate pulling ourselves up and moving forward in the future. And the UNR has put us on a list for fundraising for a building in expectation in about 7 years. And so that would be funds set aside for architecture and fees for planning and making that happen. And it'll be many years in the future, but making sure that we have capacity and capability of growing with the county as it grows and supporting it as needed. Other than that, we have a backup for risk accounts, which is a small amount, but basically when grants come in, they don't start the funding right away, and that helps us keep employees going. And the other new item there is called bridge funding for grant losses. It's just under $500,000, but we anticipated there could be ripple effect going into our programs, and this gives us an opportunity to keep some key people on, to stay on top of potential opportunities that'll come, and also figure out how we can potentially bridge people between new opportunities of funding that we have, so that we keep good people employed and don't have that gap. It's a very small amount compared to the losses we have, so we do expect definitely losses, but we're going to go full hard at supporting the community to the best of our abilities and finding opportunities to do such. Any questions?
Well, thank you. I received an email about the SNAP Ed benefit reduction, and I'm so sorry. 35 employees at UNR could lose jobs from my reading of this. So, and these programs are, help kids with nutritional education, reduce sugar sweetened beverage consumption, and we also, so it looks like you were serving 1,500 individuals throughout Washoe County alone with that benefit. So that will be felt in the community. We really appreciate you highlighting that to us and to the public, because hopefully folks will want to support your programs and see how they can fill in the gaps, because it's an essential program for sure for our community.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate that type of information getting out there. Certainly helping people to eat healthy on a small amount of money and being healthier prevents a lot of problems for them
Yes.
in their lives, our communities, and all around. Yeah.
Thank you. Vice Chair Herman? Okay, Commissioner, oh yes, of course. And Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to piggyback off of what you said, because I do think we need to underscore this loss. This is a 25-year nutritional and outreach program that has helped all 17 counties in Nevada. And these are devastating cuts to your staff people, to our programming, and to, all of the proactive work that you can do with this funding. And in a time in America where we're battling obesity and all these diseases, I don't feel like this should be the time that we're taking these valuable programs away. So please keep us posted on if there's any ways that the county can partner, opportunities to help spread the word about the great work that you're doing, and hang in there. I know it's a tough time for many of us, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no comment. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate your updates. We're so proud to partner with you and the great work that you're doing for our community. I don't have any feedback on your budget. I'm looking forward to seeing the programs that you can move forward with this year. And we just, please, invite us to your public programs so we can come out and support, because we love to meet all the community that you serve and show that the commission is a partner with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, we'll now move into our second presentation, 5A2, Manager Thomas.
Thank you. We have an appearance by Washoe County Recorder Kaylee Work to provide an update on the Recorder's Office.
Welcome.
Good morning. Hello. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us. Kaylee Work for the record, Washoe County Recorder. And we're so excited to be here today. I just want to take a quick moment to introduce my new Chief Deputy Recorder, Gail Spearman. Gail Spearman has been an employee of the Recorder's Office for 29 years.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support Kaylee.
Great.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for having us. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and I wanted to take a few minutes to give you some information about our office. What have we been up to? What's kind of on the horizon? And then the second half of our presentation is to go over what the public should be aware of in terms of property fraud, even though I don't want to alarm anyone, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes. But so again, that's the two parts of kind of this presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and use this. Okay, terrific. So, as you know, I am serving as in my second term as County Recorder. I am currently the president of the Recorders Association of Nevada, and I represent Washoe County on CFOA, which is the County Fiscal Officers Association of Nevada. Even though I'm in the second term of being in this office, our mission remains the same. To record, permanently preserve, and provide convenient access of our public records for the public. And we want to do so, of course, with superior public service. Now, you may be asking, what are all the records that we record in our office? They span everything from property records to financing documents, maps, marriage records, and more. My goal has always been, how do we make it easy for the public to do business with our office? When we look at projects, initiatives, our day-to-day activities, I find that we really bucket those objectives into four main tiers. So security, innovation, accessibility and transparency, and public service. So we got a small but mighty team. We are a full team of 24 employees, currently at 22 with 2 vacancies. We have 2 primary divisions. That's our recording services division and our communications division, which falls under our administrative assistant. We also have a business technologist that reports into myself, and we have a real property transfer tax compliance auditor as well that oversees all of the transfer tax taxes collected and exemptions, which we'll get to more in a moment. I mentioned we're small but mighty. We complete our entire annual operations on a budget of roughly $3 million, and that spans over 2 budgets. We have our general fund, and then we also have our technology fund. Last week, you graciously approved our technology fund, which we look at on an annual basis, and we have costs such as software, disaster recovery, historical book preservation, and those sort of things that come out of our technology fund. So I thought since we're doing this in July, it'd be nice to recap what we've done over this last fiscal year. We recorded about 100,000 documents over this last fiscal year. It was up from 88,000 in the prior year. 5,000 of those were marriage recordings. So we have seen the marriages kind of declining in our community year over year. We used to big, I know that our county clerk is very familiar with this, but we used to be one of the marriage capitals for a long, long time. And so we are seeing that trend sort of decline in the region. We collected $3.2 million in recording fees last year. Those are statutory fees that we collect on each of our recordings. And we also collected $30 million in real property transfer tax. That is anytime a property is conveyed to a new buyer, we collect on behalf of the state of Nevada. And that goes to taxation. Some of that is reallocated later on for things like county consolidated tax, so C-tax, low-income housing support, and things of that nature. We also collect we take our own calls and questions from the public. We are the second most viewed website in the county, second to the assessor's office. We managed 22,000 phone calls with my communications division last year. That resulted in almost 32,000 copy requests, mostly in the form of marriage documents, but some other documents as well. That was fairly high. The years prior, we took 17,000 phone calls on average and anywhere from around 25,000 copies. Why we saw the big increase this last year was the new requirement, the federal requirement for the Real ID. So that was a big driver of that activity in our office. And at the end of this presentation, I do have our resources with just different mentions of where you can get more information. For additional statistics, if you are interested, we have a statistics page on our website where you can view kind of trends and the full history of our office. Okay, so I already briefly touched on real property transfer tax, but like I mentioned, we collect about $30 million plus on behalf of the state of Nevada this last year. And we in Washoe County collect $2.05 for every $500 of property value. All right. And I mentioned all this, and I'm displaying our citizens satisfaction survey. This is something I launched back in 2019. We have a full survey that we of course request the public to take at the time of their transaction once it's complete. I really wanted to highlight, we've done a lot of work, a lot of activity this last fiscal year, and my team has managed just tremendous results. And I just wanted to highlight them because public service is really a strength of my office, and I'm really proud of them for helping sustain these great numbers. All right. And part of the reason also why I love surveys too is you learn a lot of information, right? We made several changes in our office as a result from feedback we've heard from the public. And so those survey results have been instrumental when we decide, excuse me, what initiatives we want to go after. In recent years, we've invested in a large-scale digitization project where we digitized 9 million of our property records. That took over a year to complete with one of our vendors. We are now, the sub-bullet here, we're now in-house scanning more of our marriage records and indexing dating back to inception of the county. So that's a big endeavor. We're going to see how much progress we can take before seeking budget for that. But at this time, we're kind of handling that piece in-house. Other big initiatives that we've done over the last year or two is I really focus on business continuity. We have really important documents that need to be maintained in perpetuity. And so we've spent a lot of time on disaster recovery initiatives also in our office. This last year, with your support from last tech fund update last year, we invested in a software test environment, which allows us to test our software before any big changes are made, including updates. And then I'm going to talk about our recording notification service in just a bit. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. And kind of switch gears and talk about property fraud. I think everyone should be aware, property fraud is also referred to as deed fraud or document fraud. It's something that we keep an eye on, not only here locally, but across the state and nationally. We are members of the Property Records Industry Association, and other recorders throughout the country are always kind of looking out for new scams, what's happening, and how can we all be prepared. And so this is something that we're looking at, always trying to do better, instill best practices in our offices. So what's happening in our region? Like I said, I don't want to alarm anyone. I did reach out to our our sheriff's office last week. There are no known present cases of property fraud today in Washoe County. But there has been attempted fraudulent activity. Specifically, we see scammers that go after vacant land, for example. That's kind of the big one that's pretty common across the nation. We've been really lucky in our community that those have not gone through, or we don't have any evidence of those going through. But criminals are out there. They will leverage data from public information, so we want to be aware of that, especially as the world evolves with AI. I know we're out of time, so I just wanted to...
You can continue on, please.
I will be brief.
Okay, no, don't even worry.
Okay.
We want to make sure we understand all the elements of your office. Continue on.
Thank you,
Yes.
Like I mentioned, the Recorders Association of Nevada has a about property fraud area on their website as well. How can you protect yourself if you have ever been a victim of fraud, or what to do to reduce that, of course. I've seen people set up Google alerts, which is great. I've heard people subscribe to private entity groups like Home Title Lock, things like that on a subscription basis. However, I did want to notify you and also the public that we actually have a free service in our office called the Recording Notification Service. This is where homeowners can log in, create an account, list their APN, different variations of their name, first name, middle name, last name, and so forth. And they can get an automated email alert from our office anytime a record is put on public record that has to do with their name and on their property in our office. So if you're a homeowner, I certainly suggest that you register for free. It takes less than 3 minutes. And this is kind of a gold standard across reporters around the nation. So looking ahead at future initiatives, I will be back in front of you, so I guess in the next 12 to 18 months, what can you expect from me? I will probably be back in front of you soon to discuss a bulk copy request fee. So I wanted to put that on your radar. That is when new companies, title firms, we're seeing some AI firms pop up, and they're wanting access to historical records. And it's probably time for us to refresh that. I'm also looking to update our software agreement with our software vendor. We have been in a partnership since 1998, 1999. We've only signed a couple refreshable agreements since that time, and I think we want to standardize, use more modern language around maintenance and support. So we're actively working with them to update that content now. Of course, book preservation, record preservation is always top of mind, something that we have to do. And then, of course, deep fraud prevention. What happens when, AI takes over? We want to be prepared and look for opportunities to do better and be more advanced. So we will be ensuring integrity and information security. Want to make sure that's top of mind. So I will close with that, and thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. We are so lucky to have a recorder that embraces technology and has this expertise in your office and really pushes the customer service piece. So thank you so much for ensuring that we serve the public well, and that those stats are amazing. And we'll go down the line for commissioner questions or comments. Vice Chair Herman.
Just want to thank you for your thorough job that you do and the wonderful service that is to the public. I feel very confident. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for taking the time to come tell us about the good work that you're doing. You're seeing a lot of increases, increased recording, increased phone calls, and you're maintaining an increase in customer service. So kudos to you and your team for all that. And I really love that you use surveys to launch your new initiatives. So that was exciting to hear that element of your office. On your website, it's really easy for folks to hop on, download forms, look at the fees and all that. One of the questions I get from people, they're curious about how fees are made. Who decides the amounts? How often do they change? I know other boards or agencies, we sometimes look at redoing the fees. Your website shows some different agencies and departments that those fees go through. So could you take a moment to kind of clarify how the fees work in your office?
Absolutely. In 2017, is my understanding, there was a big initiative at the legislature to standardize recording fees and have a flat rate recording fee for the majority of our documents. So it costs typically $43 to have a general recording. That's statutory, and then there are different variations for UCC. For example, it's going to be much more. Those are outlined on our website as well. Most of the time it's statutory. We do have taxes that are involved, of course, approved by the commission. Things like, I suppose things can change. Whether it's legislative or not for each additional fee, I would have to double check, but.
That's helpful, thank you. And then on the downloadable forms, I see that you have a column for English and a column for Spanish. I know that we're moving towards a lot more language acquisition initiatives here at the county. Has anything changed in your office in relation to the availability of Spanish documents?
Yep, we worked with communications, I want to say this time last year or at the end of last calendar year, and we went through a whole migration. How do we translate our documents into Spanish? So those that are publicly available should also be available in Spanish.
Thank you. And Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Bork, for your report. You do a great job for the county. You're the county recorder, but you also handle everything in Reno and Sparks for their jurisdictions as well. I think you're doing a great job. You're another example. We got lucky today and get two elected officials that are doing a great job. I know you work hand in hand with the assessor and the treasurer and probably some work with the clerk as well. So I think that group is all doing a great job, and you're actually earning some money based on what your budget is and what you bring in. There's a good return on investment there, and you do a good job, and little or no controversy there, and it's just pleasant to have you doing a good job. And I see your new second in command there, Ms. Spearman, is it? Spearman? 29 years in service. That's pretty close to 30. I wonder how long before she retires. That was my first thought when you're a department head. When you see somebody with 29 years in the office, you go, I wonder how long they're going to be here. So that could be another challenge in the future. But congratulations on your appointment to that position and doing a good job over there. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
And just a quick question on the real property transfer tax. I've had constituents reach out and say, I don't know if my neighbor is reporting that someone has passed and then they've taken the property over. Like, is there checks on that or reporting that could be done? Not to be negative and that assume that there's ill intent, but I was just curious how that works.
Well, we collect transfer tax each time a property is conveyed to a new owner. So there are exemptions that are listed through taxation. Things like adding a spouse, for example. We have 14 exemptions instead. 15 was just released this year. So we have 14 exemptions that are outlined in NRS, why someone may be exempt from paying transfer tax when conveying property.
Okay.
So again, things like adding on a spouse or so forth, but otherwise, if they are going to buy or sell property, there is that transfer tax that's required.
Okay, well, I'll point them to NRS and Washoe 311 if they want to follow up.
And like I said, we do audit those, so we have a compliance auditor that ensures that we're collecting on behalf of the state what we're supposed to collect.
Great.
So we do manage that pretty cleanly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your great work, and we look forward to continue to work with you in your department.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We will now move into donations if Commissioner Garcia could help us with that.
Of course, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I move to, did you say something? No? Okay. I move to approve $43,379.05 in donations from various businesses, organizations, and individuals for parks and open space.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Looking for a second on that?
Second.
Vice Chair Herman, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any public comment, Madam Clerk, on the donations? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And I think that passes you. Oh, it's up on your screen. Thank you. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We will now move into our consent items. And Commissioner Clark, you had mentioned on consent that you had some, did you want to pull something or make a statement on consent?
Yes, I would like to pull 7C1.
Okay, 7C1. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay, any other commissioners want to pull an item? No, not seeing any. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on consent?
I have nobody signed in on the other consent items.
Okay, so Commissioner Clark, is that in the form of a motion to approve consent minus 7C1?
Yes.
Okay, looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. And we've taken public comment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously. We'll now move up to 7C1, and I'm not sure if we have our staff here.
We do, Madam Chair. This is a recommendation to acknowledge the receipt of the completed review for the Department of Alternative Sentencing from our Internal Audit Division, and we have our internal auditor staff representatives here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome. And Commissioner Clark, do you want a presentation or do you have some questions for staff?
I have some comments
Okay.
and some questions based on what I've read in the local publication. This is Reno, and looking at the report, I'm just wondering how this went on so long. How did this go? You know I personally brought it to put it on the record almost 2 years ago that this department head was allegedly spending much of his time in Las Vegas with his wife's business, doing the same type of business that he was doing here for the county. They were doing it as a private business down in Las Vegas. When I brought that up, I was chastised by other board members, but I think I was ahead of the curve here in giving the county the heads up on things weren't right here. And that's one of the things in the article is saying that they're spending a lot of time at his wife's business and not minding the store, and who was supervising this? And I know this is now and that was then, but how do we prevent this kind of thing happening in the future? Other department heads were grousing about the fact that they were continually over budget for 3 years in a row and not around, and yet it goes on and on and on until, again, I brought this up more than once. One of the only times that any old-timers around here can remember, no public record showing, whenever we've had a federal agency come in and close down a county department. How does this stuff happen? Who's watching this stuff? Who's minding the store? Is this, I understand the former county manager was supposed to be overseeing this, but and then we turn around and give raises and bonuses based on somebody who misses all this stuff. So how do we explain that to the public? You get a bonus and a raise, and you're in charge of this stuff, and you miss it, and a federal organization closes it down, and people are being charged different fees, and this thing is an absolute mess. And we get a nice report saying that this has happened, but why didn't somebody catch it before 3 years? That's my question. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Audit Manager Caitlin Clydesty. So I don't have a lot of support for why it wasn't called 3 years ago. So it was added to our audit schedule last year. It was approved by the audit committee and then again by the Board of County Commissioners. We went ahead, since it was regularly scheduled, started a review. Obviously, we expanded. We were looking for efficiencies, and we expanded into an internal control assessment.
And I think just to add, and maybe you can embellish on this or expand on this, this is why I'm so proud of our internal our auditors, excuse me. Both of you have been incredible in finding these problems and concerns in departments, and with recommendations on how to correct, and following up with the departments to ensure that they make these corrections. And we wouldn't necessarily catch this and all of these issues without your commitment to this work. And so maybe you could speak about the role of an internal auditor.
Correct. So internal audit manager Caitlin Clydesty for the record. So yes, so we went ahead, did the review, or an audit. In this case, it was just a review. We will provide a report recommending different changes to be made. We work with the management team to create a management response and an implementation plan, and then it is on the department to implement some of the recommendations, all the recommendations, what they can do. So then we follow up about a year later to see what worked, what didn't work, and how it kind of flowed. So then we'll do another follow-up. With this particular one, it's going to be considered high risk, so we will do a little more in-depth follow-up on our 1-year contact with them.
Right. And Commissioner Clark, go on.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm the kind of person, if I go in a restaurant and something's not right, I don't blame the wait staff. I want to see the manager. I want to see the owner, okay? So when I'm talking about this I think you're doing a great job. Mm-hmm. Why didn't somebody, put you on the scent of the trail 3 years ago is my question, or 2.5 years ago. And that isn't the question to you. That's the question to the other powers that be in the room. How come, who allowed this to get to this level? This is an embarrassment for the county to have the federal government, the FBI, or whatever federal investigation group. Do you know what group it was, by the way?
It's the Secret Service.
Okay, Secret Service. Secret Service has to come to Washoe County to investigate this. I mean, why didn't we catch this stuff before it got to that level? And that's the question to the universe, not to you, okay? And I'm not blaming you. Don't think that for a second. I want to know, we've all got egg on our faces up here. We're supposed to be in charge of the county, and apparently we weren't. And it's just an embarrassment, and that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, yes, we make mistakes in government. There can be corruption or issues in local government. I think why I'm proud is that we are supporting a two-person team for internal audit. Many communities are, even locally, are laying off their audit staff and outsourcing for that. I think it shows how valuable it is to have audit staff internally. And we produce these reports for the public to review, and the public has a right to understand these issues. So I am proud of the county for doing that work as well. And we've got to do better, and you're helping us get there with all these really specific recommendations. And so I'll go to the other commissioners and go back to Commissioner Clark. Vice Chair Herman, do you have anything?
I'm on that board. So
Yes, you're familiar. Thank you for your work on the audit committee, Vice Chair. And Commissioner Garcia. Okay. And yes, Manager Thomas.
Yeah, I'll step in. I know Commissioner Clark, we've talked about this, but the ownership of the department oversight is obviously with the executive staff. I mean, I had direct oversight of the department, certainly acknowledged that things were not as well as they should be, but the important thing is that we've identified that there was an issue and that we're going to move forward to rectify it. I will assure you that we're taking steps in every area of the audit to strengthen the organization, not just that particular department, but systems, process improvements that we can look at holistically. You will likely see some suggestions come forward to this board regarding that department and how we can do things a little bit differently as a result of the audit. And so I just, again, I'll take ownership of that, Commissioner. That's an area of oversight that we try our best, but can't catch everything, so that's why we have talented teams like the internal auditors to help us out. So thanks to you, thanks to the board for your support, and we'll continue to be diligent on these things.
And I do think I know it's going to take more time to structurally look at the recommendations from our manager study or Office of the County Manager study, but I know there were recommendations of distributing the workload as well. There was a lot of departments under even the two ACMs, and so I do think that is going to improve when you have more of these departments and as well as liaisons throughout the management and executive team. So I think that is going to improve as well. Yes, Commissioner Clark, you're signed back in.
Yeah, and I appreciate the county manager making those statements, and I appreciate that we're working to correct this. My concern and the concern of the public is there any other ticking time bombs out there that are going to pop up that could be nipped in the bud before it gets to that level? And that's what I'm trying to get at. There's no need to point fingers. There'll be plenty of other opportunities for things to come out when and if this goes further into the judicial system. But it's just something to think about when there's some red flags. One thing leads to another and should have been investigated maybe sooner. You also have to look at not just the public's opinion of this, but these were fragile people coming out of addiction and weren't some of them weren't treated properly, some of them were overcharged, some were undercharged, some weren't accredited, some came back false positive. I mean, there's a lot of other things that impacted a lot of other things besides just the county's reputation, and we have to keep that in top of mind awareness of some of the victims that were there to try and get treatment and ended up with this type of poor treatment. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
And Commissioner Clark, I also will commend you. I mean, I didn't remember that you had pointed out the outside employment, but I think that is a good catch, and I know that the HR department has already created a central area where you need to be approved by outside employment if you're a county employee, and so that was something that you had brought up during that presentation, and I think that was a very valid concern and why you're in that seat, so thank you for your diligence on that.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the board on this? And any public comment, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. I am looking for a motion to acknowledge the review.
So move.
Thank you, and looking for a second. Thank you, Vice Chair. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. It's on your screen. Thank you very much. That motion passes unanimously. We are now going to move into item 8. Madam Clerk.
This will be Bill number 1934, which amends Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, Development Code to update Article 220, Tahoe Area, and Article 220.1, Tahoe Area Design Standards.
Thank you very much. And we would love a staff report on this, please. Dr. Young.
Good morning, Commission. Madam Chair, Commission, I'm Eric Young, Senior Planner with the Planning Program. I believe we have a presentation.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you so much. So this is the update to the 2025 Tahoe Area Plan. A brief background, the area plan and development code were adopted together in 2021. The area plan is the master plan, the development code is the regulatory document. Specifically, Article 220 and Article 220.1, sometimes known as the modifiers in our development code. Those are the Tahoe modifiers. If you should choose to move forward to a second reading, you will see some associated master plan amendments brought forward at that time during the second reading. This update is composed of two broad areas of focus. The first one has to do with TRPA, for the record, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, mandated changes. There are two types of mandated changes. The first one is recently adopted by TRPA, known as Phase 2 housing amendments. And the second is known as schedule amendments, is something that both of our regional planning agencies do. When we adopt a plan, they will provide us with a list of things they want us to amend next time we come forward with amendments. So we have the Phase 2 housing amendments and the schedule amendments as mandated changes from TRPA, but then brought forward independently by Washoe County are lessons learned from the plan implementation. This was a very new plan in 2021. We've been implementing it. We've learned a few things. We found some things we'd like to improve. Then also, we have some responses to a request for more workforce housing opportunities, both as a response to this board's strategic plan priorities, but also in response to a basin-wide request for more workforce housing opportunities. So let's talk about the schedule amendments. In 2021, we were notified as this plan was adopted that we needed to identify which places can receive transfer development rights and to replace some rules that we had removed relative to Ponderosa Ranch. The Phase 2 housing amendments really represented the biggest piece of what the community was interested in and what we got the most amount of community response to. And in fact, when the TRPA was reviewing these amendments, before they adopted them, it was Washoe County residents who most often showed up and commented as TRPA adopted them. And they showed up to discuss them as we moved through our mandated process to adopt them as well. They are centered around parking, coverage, height, and density. Parking, height, and density are all changed for both the town centers and the areas zoned multifamily. These are the areas that we typically know in Incline and Crystal Bay, right along Tahoe Boulevard, are where the town centers are. So we can come back and talk about these specifically if you're interested. These are the changes that TRPA is mandating every jurisdiction, not just Washoe County, but every jurisdiction undertake. In response to our own public input, and like I said, those mandated changes were what we really heard most about from our community, and in particular, the new parking requirements. TRPA is suggesting that with the parking analysis, people should be able to maybe have zero parking requirement. Parking is a big issue in Incline. We've heard about it for not just recently. It is one of those issues that has consistently been for decades in issue and incline. People are prepared to talk about it. So the idea of not requiring any parking was very difficult for them to accept. And with the TRPA rules, it just says parking analysis. There was no framework of what a parking analysis might mean, and it implies that somebody could just submit anything. So Washoe County staff worked to develop some parameters for what a parking analysis is, what it should say, what it should include, and how a director could use a parking analysis to determine whether somebody should actually be able to reduce their parking requirement. So this is something that Washoe County staff added in response to public input. Moving on to some of the other things that Washoe County did on their own, the workforce housing amendments, a variety of amendments throughout the area plan to help open up the possibility for more deed-restricted housing. The biggest one are some changes to the Ponderosa Ranch area to allow multifamily housing there, deed-restricted multifamily housing. Washoe County also views accessory dwelling units as a potential place for workforce housing and for even deed-restricted housing. Right now, workforce or accessory dwelling units are restricted to 1 acre units, 1 acre parcels. So throughout the basin, we've been able to change that. Washoe County has not changed it. We are moving forward now to propose a change to allow ADUs on parcels that are 12,000 square feet in size, if there's on something smaller than an acre. So it does limit the size, but it does allow you to go less than an acre. This was another one of the changes that we did hear quite a bit from the community about. In general, a concern about growth in general, infrastructure, and fire evacuation were some of the issues that we heard around accessory dwelling units. Some other just various code improvements. These are all described in detail in the staff report. These are some that we chose to review for you. There were a variety of just simple clarifications throughout the plan that we made. There's one area in the plan that required special use permit for just a single family home. We're removing that, and a variety of things along those lines that we found in the last couple of years of implementation. These are some other ones that we found. An important one for us is aligning our process for temporary uses with TRPA's temporary uses. And the long and short-term bike parking is something that we've heard about from the community as well that would be useful, so we've updated those. Of course, updated references. Sierra Nevada College is no longer there, it's University of Nevada, simple things like that. There have been some changes since the Planning Commission public hearing recently. The original proposal had some zoning changes in what's called the Tyrolean Village Special Area. All of those requested proposed changes have been removed. So those are not part of this package any longer, but the Planning Commission heard them. So anything that was relative to the planning to Tyrolean Village, all of those changes has been removed, and what you are seeing in this package has everything about Tyrolean Village being the same. We also added some language to clarify the Tahoe, the TRPA's got a separate plan process from us. They view our master plan and development code as one document. They call it the Tahoe area plan. And that's one document to them. But for Washoe County, it's 2 documents. And so we added some language to make it clear that even though TRPA administers them as one document, we will continue to administer them as 2 separate documents, the area plan being the master plan and the development code. There was extensive public outreach that went back all the way to the start of the year, some kickoff meetings and some pop-up events. We had a series of draft reviews and many surveys, one of which I want to thank St. Francis of Assisi for helping us with a Spanish language survey. We did a webinar and a couple of workshops. Most of the comments that we had, as I mentioned, had to do with the Phase 2 housing amendments. In parking, density, and height are issues that the community regrets we are mandated to make changes to, so we heard that. Some of their issues are just the basic concerns about growth and not wanting to promote more growth even if it is income restricted. And there are some basic concerns around what you might say is a trust or belief in TRPA system, that it's an appropriate system. Their view of deed-restricted housing is extremely broad, and one of their tiers for affordable deed-restricted housing does not reference how much you make. It references whether or not you live and work in the basin. So that's a concern that the community has raised frequently. Some of the other very persistent and common points of input that we got have to do with fire evacuation. As mentioned, always parking is always an issue. And the environment is something that we hear about in all Tahoe-related amendments. The community is very supportive of workforce housing. They are supportive of a process to try and open up the door to workforce housing. There are concerns about impacts to infrastructure, impacts to fire evacuation, and there is, as I mentioned, a sort of a lack of belief in the TRPA approach to affordable housing. In response to all that public input, we did work with TRPA staff to try and come up with an alternative to their approach to parking height and density. We worked with staff for quite a while in trying to develop an alternative. We were unsuccessful in coming up with any language that TRPA staff would support. We did, although, add clear language for the parking modifications to make sure that a parking study is just not open-ended and it's required to include certain things. And then we do have some code in there to support workforce housing, especially what in Ponderosa Ranch. So that's what I have for you today. I'm happy to go back. This is our recommendation. We're recommending introduce and conduct a first reading for this development code amendment and set a public hearing for second reading and possible adoption of the ordinance for August 26, 2025. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions or go over anything you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Young. And I know we worked together on the first 2021 changes to the Washoe Tahoe area plan. I have a quick clarification. I was just hoping, because I'm living this and breathing it, and I'm on the TRPA board and many committees and the TTD board. But just for the board's information on the role of TRPA over the county, because I think that is important understanding, and maybe if you don't feel fully comfortable, I could also throw it over to the DA, but I just wanted to see if we could level set with that information.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, Commission. The TRPA is a regional planning agency, much like our own Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency that you may be more familiar with. Except up at the lake, they have much more significant authority over what we would call current planning or development. It's our regional planning agency down here is what we might call that 30,000 foot level that makes us review our master plan only, right? Our master plan has to be in conformance, but our development code is never looked at by our regional agency down here. At the lake, they have the authority to review all those forms of development, all levels of planning and all levels of development. They have, through a variety of interlocal agreements, memorandums of understanding, delegated some authority to some jurisdictions, some to us, and allowed us to take some of that authority and do some things. And different jurisdictions have agreed to different amounts of that. with TRPA. But overall, the authority that TRPA has been given by Congress allows them to review our development code as well as our master plan for conformance with their codes. So that is a significant difference between the lake and other regional agencies that has evolved over time, but it has been that way for some time now. There is always an opportunity to rethink that, and TRPA is more open to talking about that than it often appears they are. But at the current time, they have the full land use planning authority unless they have delegated to us through a memorandum of understanding.
Mm-hmm. And so on some of the public comments that we received, the written public comments, we don't necessarily have to listen to TRPA, but it's my understanding that TRPA could come back to Washoe County and just say, we're taking over the planning function and this is going to be mandated regardless. So I just wanted to, get that clarification for the record.
Yes, Madam Chair. What would happen in this case if we decline to adopt these on our own, like many of the other jurisdictions did? They didn't go through this process that we did. We chose to go through these and include them in a county-sponsored process to give our community that extra round of input and to try and work with TRPA staff to develop some alternatives and maybe work through to some different language. So if we had not done that, what would have happened is the TRPA would have just adopted them for us.
Mm-hmm.
They did that for several of the jurisdictions already. And without being dramatic, I've been at those hearings when they're done, and it takes about 30 seconds, and it's done. So we chose to go this route to give our community more opportunity for input, to take a shot at some alternative language, to have a more comprehensive package. But if we had not included what we're calling the mandated amendments, they would have just happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And I do commend the team on the public outreach, so impressive, and the Spanish, translating things into Spanish and doing that workshop as well. Thank you so much. I feel like we have done a lot to ensure that we're getting that public input and have learned a lot with our own codes for affordable housing. So thank you for that. I'll go down the line for the rest of the commissioners and we'll take public comment. Vice Chair Herman.
Sorry, I guess I'm on now. You have a hard job. And I agree with that the concerns that the people have are serious. And until I feel for them because they feel like they're between a rock and a hard place. And that's what your job, you're in that place too. So you probably had to really think about what you were doing, and I know you're very good at your job. I appreciate the hard work, but I'm so concerned about what this could do, and there are things that the people have talked to me about that, like 6-story buildings and things like that, when we have problems even thinking about how to evacuate the people that live there now, and then the population will grow, and how do we get everybody out of there? There's so many things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of thinking to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any response? I don't know. Dr. Young?
Thank you. Thank you. This is a multi-effort. It's not just me even close. I was not even the lead on this. We have some really bright, dedicated staff that really spent time with the community trying to figure this out. So I happen to be here presenting today, but it is a big team effort. The concerns about fire are persistent. I can only tell you what we have heard from our own fire experts and emergency management people, that there is going to be this evacuation study underway, that there is a preference on their part to include any potential changes. There is the, and we do hear fairly commonly that having people concentrated, as scary as that sounds, is preferable for evacuation purposes. And for new, one of the new mitigations to fire that is being promoted is hardening of existing structures. And taken overall, one of the approaches and one of the preferred approaches is not necessarily to get everybody out, but to have people in a place where they can be protected. And so this is all to be unfolded and explained and discussed in the upcoming evacuation study that would look at all of these different scenarios. So that's all we can report back. That's all that we can say. That's what we're hearing. Some of the input says, well, let's do the study, let's do the study on both scenarios, the pre and post scenario. I'm not sure how to respond to that. I'm not sure how the people who would put together a study would respond to that, how they would approach that. I think it would be regrettable to do the study without these proposals because, as I mentioned, TRPA is going to make this happen whether we do or not. Right? So any study should include these changes. It's a big topic. It's a complex topic. I respect all of the fear and concern in the community. What we can do is look to our own emergency management professionals to tell us what they think. And we haven't heard from anybody that we should not move forward. What we've heard from everybody is that we'll look at it. It'll be part of the study. So that's all I have. I apologize that it's not better for you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, it's not very often that we get a note of appreciation that drops in our email boxes about staff when it comes to really difficult processes like that. We did receive one of those, and it's because of the time and diligence and everything that you guys all took to make sure to get the word out, to engage the community, to listen, and more importantly, try to help negotiate. So if you could touch on, you know, maybe one of the top 2 or top 3 issues that staff felt like they needed to really voice their concerns about or push back on that we didn't get the win on, but just something that we should know as commissioners here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Garcia. I think I would point back to parking. Parking, height, and density, and coverage are the 4 things in the mandated so-called Phase 2 amendments. So the height and density are issues that we tried to provide information and data on. There is a very serious growth cap throughout the basin.
Mm-hmm.
They are reaching that cap throughout the basin, and there is not a discussion of raising the cap. So really the whole discussion is how did we distribute this last little bit that's left? Where should that go? And is there any way we can use most of it for affordable housing or workforce housing rather than high-income housing? So that's what the discussion really is. And what this, now every community is going to have these same tools for all the developers to use to see if they can use the height, the density, and the parking. So we tried to talk about how height and density won't really result in extra growth. The growth is limited. And even in Washoe County, it's very limited. The amount of residential allocations that we have that are given to us is small. It's in the it's a couple hundred. So there's just not that much growth possible. But the parking issue goes much broader than just growth. It's something that the community has struggled with for decades. Where are people putting their cars? How are people going to get around? There, as you know, there's a lot of cynicism about transit and so forth about it. It's not happening. It's all for tourists. It's not for us. So there's a lot of concern that the movement in the basin to eliminate parking, and that is where the momentum is going at the basin. Throughout the basin, the momentum is to get rid of all parking requirements. In Washoe County, people think that's nuts. And they are really frustrated by that. And they say, that doesn't work, that will never work for us. Right? And so when they saw in the mandated changes that we have to allow zero parking requirements, that we can't have a parking requirement, that says you have to, a minimum amount, that's something that we thought we should try and push back on and try and work with. And we spent a lot of time with the TRPA staff discussing this history of parking in Incline Village and what the issues are. And, the community brings up some good points about low-income people need cars. And that's one of the interesting things about the dynamic with the community is they're bringing up valid points. Right? They're bringing up some, they're right about a lot of things. And so we have to try and communicate with them, well, this is why that's happening, this is what's going on. But with the parking, we tried really hard to push back. And we failed.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that the public has loved Lake Tahoe to death. They're pretty close to it. I always think about, should we do anything, what's the Hippocratic oath, do no harm? How much harm has already been done? How much harm are we going to do when we're distributing this last little remnants of land? You look at how many missteps have been made over the last 50 or 60 or 80 or 100 years, whatever it is. This is allowed and that's allowed, and pretty quickly now we've got this situation. We talk about parking at Lake Tahoe. I was there Sunday. There's plenty of parking. All you have to do is get in your car, start it up, and get on any street, and you're parked. Lots of parking. I avoid that place like the plague. I had a guest in from out of town. We had to do something in Gray Eagle and came back through Truckee into the lake, and as soon as I got by Fanny Bridge there, Fanny Dam, turned around, made a U-turn, and got the heck out of there. Went back to Truckee and came down the highway. It's a mess. There's no getting around it. We shouldn't add one more skateboard to that place. Everybody's happy. They're going to a barbecue. They're playing on the beach. They're walking their dog. They're taking a walk. They're enjoying life on Sunday. If that same crowd was there on a day that there was a fire, when people lose their minds and run and panic. That's why you don't holler fire in a movie theater. And I always use that example. If there's a fire with a lot of out-of-towners, a lot of international visitors, people who don't know their way around, I kind of think I know my way around up around the lake, the whole lake, but just fair. I'm not an expert. How many dead ends, how many narrow streets, how many roads feed into this road, or feed into that road, or feed in this, and if you make a wrong turn, in a normal day, you can turn around and go back and do what you need to do. And on a day where people needed to get out of there, you're not going to have that luxury. Hand-to-hand combat when people are trying to get out of there. We saw it in L.A. when people just jumped out of their cars and ran away, and the bulldozers had to get. Again, how can we do no more harm than already has been done? That's my position up here. From folks that I've talked to and people that reach out to me, I've got a good relationship with a lot of folks up there based on the Incline Village tax issue. So I know a lot of folks, and the concerns are out-of-towners, people not knowing their way around, busy holiday weekends. Any weekend is a busy weekend up there, it seems. In the spring, summer, some things are going on. Winter, things are going on. So that's my concern. Higher density, parking, and then let's get to the real issue. This is about developing the last land up there. It's cloaked in affordable housing. It's cloaked in workforce housing. There's ways to handle workforce housing. The mines do it. Out here at Tesla and those places, they do it. They bus their workers to work. So that's something that should be looked at. There's another alternative besides building high-rise places that are ultimately going to sell for $2 or $3 million. Who's that affordable to? Royalty? It's not affordable. So that's just my concerns is what are we really doing up there? What are we really doing? Are we doing anything to help anything, or are we doing more harm? That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will open it up to public comment. Madam Clerk.
In chambers, we have Doug Flaherty.
Doug Flaherty, Incline Village resident, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. No government agency, including Washoe County, the TRPA, has the right to mandate code amendments upon Washoe Tahoe citizenry, which will make it harder for Washoe Tahoe residents to safely evacuate during a wildfire. Doing so will violate Nevada citizens' rights to obtain or pursue safety under Article 1, Section 1 of the Nevada State Constitution. If this board doesn't correct this right now, the people will correct it. Based on consistent and substantial public comments, new substantial evidence since the 2021 Tahoe Area Plan revision, including consistent public concerns about traffic congestion and wildfire risk within the Incline Village Town Center and surrounding Incline Village neighborhoods, any reasonable person may conclude that the proposed amendments are likely to exacerbate already unacceptable public peril evacuation times in and around Incline Village. This is currently estimated by Washoe County to take 6 hours. The Planning Commission in today's staff report provided no substantial evidence that the proposed amendments align with the Development Code purposes Article 918 or ensure no adverse impact on public health, safety, or welfare. Number two, the Planning Commission's staff report failed to demonstrate how the amendments address change conditions or studies since the Development Code's adoption or promote desirable land use within regulatory zones. The proposed increases in height, density, coverage, and accessory dwelling units are inconsistent with Article 918, as they would likely worsen Incline Village's already critical 6-hour evacuation times, creating a significant public safety risk. When making any finding in connection with the amendment amendments, the Washoe County Commission must not only ensure compliance with Article 918, Section 110, 918.10 A through D, but also ensure substantial evidence is provided to support all findings. Without substantial evidence supporting findings, adopting the amendments would be arbitrary, capricious, and constitute an act of prejudicial abuse of discretion. I am saddened and disgusted as a resident in Incline Village that certain people up here, just one right now, would trade this ridiculous approach impacting our safety for developers. There was a finding that these changes would not impact health and safety. There was no substantial evidence. That's on the record. I look forward to the future discussions on this. I hope you guys either table this or reject it. Thank you.
Trista Gomez.
Trista Gomez, and since this has to do with development and we are dealing with development on such an incredible level here, I will say I sympathize with these residents. I sympathize with these residents because the people in the North Valleys deal with poor development planning. I sympathize with Incline because the people of Spanish Springs deal constantly with poor development planning. It is our thought that possibly due to the level of development funding that is in some of your campaign funds, that has a huge impact on the decision making, and it overrides the residents' concerns about safety, the residents' concerns about water, the residents' concerns about infrastructure. And when we look at your CNEs and the amount of developer contributions that you have, it is more than concerning that these developments are continued to be allowed, given the extreme impact that is constantly on the residents. That just seems to be addressed. We heard Mr. Young, it's just the basic concerns about parking, just the basic concerns. These are concerns that impact residents' lives every single day. And the only people who address it and advocate for residents in any way are Mr. Clark and Ms. Herman. That's it. Everybody else apologizes and, oh, we're sorry, but ultimately they let it through. And it's an abominable disservice to residents. That's it.
That's everybody here in Chambers. We'll go now to Incline Village. And first up, we have Helen Neff.
Hello, my name is Christina Hill, and I'm in Incline Village Library. Helen Neff has allowed me to go before her because I have to leave. I have been a planning consultant. I worked at TRPA for 4 years. I was on the Washoe County Board of Adjustments for many years. I was the chairman of the Board of Adjustments. These proposed amendments to our area plan are abominable, just like the previous speaker said. It's under the cloak of affordable housing is exactly true. It's not affordable. There's no income limit, so anybody can build a multi-million-dollar condo and get a development right for it. The increase in density, height, and the lack of parking doesn't make sense, and it's extremely unrealistic and dangerous. You should represent the residents of Incline Village, Crystal Bay, not the TRPA. And if the TRPA is going to do this anyway, why are you wasting your time talking about it, writing about it, going to meetings about it, having us come to this and comment on it? If they're going to do it anyway, just let them do it. I don't see how they can go to your office and amend your plan, but that's what we've been told. The residents of Incline Village, Crystal Bay are adamantly opposed to the proposed changes in the area plan. So please vote against this growth-inducing item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Christine Hill. Now we'll go to Helen Neff.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Helen Neff, Incline Village resident. So thank you for this opportunity to speak, and thank you also to Washoe County Planning Department, and especially to Kat Oakley for listening to our community, answering our questions, and considering our requests regarding these Phase 2 amendments from TRPA. Exhibit E of the staff report, 163 pages long, includes the public comment, and the public comment sent by email and the comments made orally today shows how deeply the residents care about this issue. And page 15 of the staff report highlights our key concerns, which have been addressed here today: the impacts on evacuation during a wildfire emergency, the changes to the community character with taller buildings, the reduced parking standards that don't reflect the needs of workers like our house cleaners, landscapers, and plumbers who rely on their vehicles. A definition of achievable housing with no income-based requirement, which allows projects that are not truly affordable. And deed restriction enforcement that has been inadequate in the past and is still lacking transparency. These concerns were raised repeatedly in 2023 as TRPA advanced and ultimately passed the Phase 2 amendments. Sadly, many of our voices were dismissed in favor of developer-driven proposals. Most residents, myself included, and at least everyone I have spoken to, support affordable housing, but approving amendments that allow taller buildings with less parking for so-called achievable housing with no income restriction will not provide homes for our workforce. The St. Francis survey of the needs of our Latino residents makes that abundantly clear. Now we're told that Washoe County must opt in because TRPA has ultimate authority. The Planning Commission admitted this on June 3rd. But how can residents trust this process if local input is sidelined? I appreciate Mr. Young's explanation of TRPA's role. Without going into details, the city of South Lake Tahoe seems to have more success in implementing changes to so-called, quote, mandated, unquoted policies than Washoe County. It seems that we need a little bit more collaboration between the residents, our concerns, TRPA, and Washoe County. I ask you to please stand with the constituents of Incline Village. Advocate for a housing strategy that reflects not just regional goals, but the safety needs and values of Incline Village and Crystal Bay. Don't settle for a one-size-fits-all solution at the expense of Washoe County residents.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Rhonda Tyser, followed by Aaron Vanderpool.
I am Rhonda Tyser, Incline Village resident since 1991. We've given you all the reasons why we believe the proposed TAP amendments will be detrimental to the Incline community, so I will not repeat them here. We've also pointed out the fallacies in the planners' justifications for the amendments, which we realized they were obligated to make. The justification for increasing housing density in our small village is, they contend, it will make the few hundred people who live in the new tall, dense town center units more physically and psychologically healthy. They cite a study saying so. As instructed, the planners have completely omitted, anywhere other than a passing reference, that any increase in density of housing along our main evacuation route will not only harm the psychology of the other 9,000 residents, it will likely lead to physical harm and death for those who cannot escape a fast-moving wildfire. Given that the planners and you commissioners seem bent on ignoring the greater good for the feel good, I want you to know that I am now taking names. After the Southern California fires, I realized there was nonstop finger pointing. Who emptied the water tanks? Who stopped water flowing from Northern California to Southern? Who allowed people to build in canyons? Who didn't enforce codes along the beach, et cetera, et cetera? There was much finger pointing, but no shouldering of responsibility. And I realized that what's missing in public administration is a long-term liability for decisions made that eventually lead to disaster. So I began making a list of the people who are contributing to what I see may very well become a disaster in Incline Village. I see the California Senate bills, SB 9 and 10, leading the way, and hold the authors of those bills responsible. I see TRPA's current leadership, who is not only revising all the taps around the lake to comply with those bills, but enacting others coming from California legislators. And now the decision has come to Washoe County as to whether to comply with California legislator bills or instead to listen to the Nevada residents at Lake Tahoe and their concerns and act in their welfare and on their behalf. That decision rests with you today. Make it wisely. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Aaron Vanderpool, followed by Richard Miner.
Yeah, Aaron Vanderpool, Incline Village resident. I brought with me today my university degree, environmental science, a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and Sustainability. And I also have on here summa cum laude, which is one of the top honors to graduate a university with. And I brought this today because, this means something, but I don't know what it means to people anymore. But I know where I got my education in sustainability. I don't know where TRPA is getting their educations, but I have an idea where they're getting their money, because I don't agree with any of these area plans they're coming up with. You hear a lot about safety and all these things, and I agree with all that. I would like to speak about inequality. I'd like to see that there was a homeless or houseless person that showed up to this meeting, somebody talking about discrimination. And these amendments discriminate, they cause class discrimination. I'd like to specifically mention ADUs. What do you think happens when you build accessory dwelling units on parcels? Those parcel values go up. They can rent those out, whether if you outlaw short-term, they rent out long-term. And all these developments, all these condos, they end up in the hands of the people that have the money. And people like me can't afford to be here. People, all our residents in Reno and beyond, they don't have a chance to come here anymore because we are increasingly developing these codes that allow the money to flow into the wealthy, that control all the assets, raises the prices. There's been conversations about busing people up to enjoy the lake. But I know there's other answers to this. If you want to turn the United States into a third world country, this is another step towards it. I can guarantee that. I'm certain of it. We're headed in the direction. You might think it's crazy, but lords and peasants, lords and serfs, I know we're all stuck in a rock and a hard place. We feel like we have a gun put to our head over this. But I would encourage us to stand up to TRPA. Let's be proud of Nevada, be proud of Washoe County. Let's get our lawyers, let's fight this. I don't think it's right. TRPA is conflicted with doing development and protecting their environment, and they're not living up to their own mandate. And I don't think they are. I have lots of friends and family that can't afford to be here anymore. I'm so grateful and lucky to still be here. And there's lots of people that couldn't be here yet, and they tell me that they feel they're a slave to the economy.
Richard Miner, followed by Pamela Signanos.
Well, we're slipped into afternoon, so good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Richard Miner, past president of the Incline Village and Crystal Bay Historical Society. I want to say that we are grateful for the efforts of the Washoe County Commissioners to get public comment on the issues before you today. And yet to say that this body, the Washoe County Commissioners, must not succumb to the notion that if we don't go along with them, then the TRPA will impose these changes on us unilaterally. Sorry, Eric Young, but you are dead wrong and stuck in the past. You, the county's elected representatives, most of you continue to subvert the will of the citizens of Incline County and Crystal Bay to this go along, get along attitude. The evidence is incontrovertible. Increasing the density of the population of the Lake Tahoe Basin is the roadmap to disaster. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. It is this county's last chance to stand up for sanity. You must vote to reject this area plan without substantial revisions. Thank you to Mike Clark, who understands this. Thank you to Jeannie Herman, who understands this. Commissioner Hill, show some guts. You are a bright woman. You have a wonderful future in politics ahead of you. Now is the chance for you to add your voice to Mike and Jeannie and vote to either table or reject the area plan amendments. It is this county's last chance to act on behalf of the citizens of Incline Village and Crystal Bay. And in fact, as several people have said before, the last chance for Nevada to assert its right as an equal partner in this bi-state compact, which is designed from the outgo to preserve, protect, and defend the natural beauty of the Lake Tahoe Basin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pamela Signanos, followed by Ann Nichols.
Thank you. I'm going to read from my computer, so I apologize for not looking at you, but I appreciate all the folks who are there today. I'm a full-time Washoe Tahoe resident, but I'd like to note Kerr County, Texas today because it's relevant here. Kerr County residents asked its county management to address and act on a fast-moving natural disaster inevitability. And Kerr County chose to kick the can down the road. Let's not make the same mistake. I'm here to ask you to oppose the proposed Tahoe Area Plan Development Code changes. They are fundamentally flawed. Above all, these codes will adversely impact today's most critical need, ensuring safe and timely wildfire evacuation in a region defined by constrained geography, limited infrastructure, and a mass influx of visitors. In short, these code proposals allow more density and increased population in a well-known double hazard wildfire zone. This will negatively impact lives. When TRPA first introduced these code changes, they were met with widespread public concerns. I know, I attended all of those meetings. There were many concerns and disapprovals and one lawsuit. The code changes are unwanted by a majority of Tahoe residents around the lake. These propose untenable burdens. And today, for Washoe County, you must understand these will impose greater costs. Taxpayers will face new and significant costs and liabilities. Why? Increased height and density doesn't simply mean taller buildings. It means greater demands on our already stretched public resources. Fire, law enforcement, schools, water, roads. How can we be sure our under-resourced county staff can enforce developer compliant and code restrictions? It doesn't have a good history. It's questionable whether these proposed buildings can actually withstand wildfires. Will these buildings and property even be able to get insurance? Previous commissioners, including Chair Hill, erred enormously in amending Washoe County Code to allow transient lodging in R1 zoned areas. This prioritized the needs of tourists over local workers who make our community function. By the way, these STR ordinances in Washoe County cost Washoe County to administer. They actually, Washoe County taxpayers pay $259,000 to let tourists live in our houses. If the commissioners
Ann Nichols, followed by
are
Roxana
genuinely
Dunn.
concerned, they will vote no. Thank you.
Hi there, Ann Nichols, North Tahoe Preservation Alliance, 54-year resident, North Tahoe, owner of a couple properties in Washoe County. So I know I've built commercial, been involved in development, and you're being fed a line here. There's a growth cap. There's no growth cap. There's no growth cap on visitors. The TRPA maintains there's a growth cap right now on development, only a few hundred left. If you're being asked to approve phase 2, will you see phase 3? It's an eye-opener. And guess what? They're considering increasing height and density and coverage more because there's never enough. And of course, they're increasing bonus units too, so that they just recharge it. Commissioner Hill knows about this stuff, so ask her. Anyway, this is a terrible case of groupthink. TRPA doesn't consider surrounding growth in their data. Isn't that stupid? I mean, what are they thinking? And not just Reno and Carson City, but the foothills. So where is the data that this stuff is going to work? It hasn't to date. It hasn't since 2012. So now we just double down on it. We do more and more and more, and it's going to work. Well, it's not working. So TRPA has no right to make us less safe, and neither does Washoe County. Thank you.
Thank you. Roxana Dunn, followed by Judith Simon.
Roxana Dunn, Incline resident. I would like to make clear what workforce we're talking about when we bring up the need for workforce housing in Incline Village. We don't particularly need housing for everyone who works. We need housing for the people who provide local services, the people who stock our grocery stores, clear snow from our streets and driveways, tend to our injuries and illnesses, teach our children, protect us from fires. Having very limited land, we must be careful to prioritize housing for these local service workers. Anytime we provide housing for other kinds of workers, we increase the population, which increases the demand for local services, which increases the need for local service workers, which increases the need for housing for those workers, all the while consuming our precious land. We can easily make the situation worse. Yes, workers can commute, but this imposes expenses and dangers on them, hard on the workers and hard on our businesses. And then we're stewards of Lake Tahoe, which already suffers from too many people, especially too many people in cars, like those commute workers who have to make that daily drive from Carson and Reno. It's worth noting that if we can move commute workers into local housing, there's little effect on the population vis-a-vis evacuation because effectively they're already here. My primary concern is that in order to overcome the high cost of land, developers will default to the achievable category that allows them to build high-end condominiums, 65-foot high penthouses, if you will. Many of our local service workers are young and mobile and need affordable rentals, not high-end units for purchase. If we really want to address housing for our local service workers, we need to, one, provide land. The old elementary school site comes to mind. This makes it financially feasible for developers to build affordable rentals. And two, we need to reclaim some of the affordable housing inventory that we have lost to short-term rentals. I realize this is not a great time to ask for government-backed housing, but in the meantime, let's not enact policies that consume what little land we have and severely limit our future options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judith Simon.
Hello, I'm Judy Simon from Crystal Bay, and I urge you to reject this ill-advised proposal. I associate myself with the remarks made by my fellow residents. The wildlife danger is real. Finger-pointing persists when challenges occur. Witness the recent debacle of a sinking and sunken fireworks barge, not to mention other challenges to the lake. I continue to work to protect the lake. I raised issues when I was a member of TRPA's Advisory Planning Commission, the Citizens Advisory Board for Incline Village, Crystal Bay, and the various housing committees and commission. Who is protecting the lake? Please do the right thing.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in, but I do have emails that were submitted that will be placed on the record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I appreciate all of the public comment, and we had hours of it when TRPA first adopted these Phase 2 amendments, and I understand the concerns, and the evacuation concerns are real, and that is why this board accepted a donation to do a full evacuation study, and really looking forward to the outcome of that. I know that they've already started their public outreach on that process and invited all the citizen advisory boards throughout the county to get involved, including Incline Village and Crystal Bay. But as your board member who is closest to the issue, I just wanted to kind of give some background. This board accepted the Washoe Tahoe housing roadmap that came before us and study. I'm not even sure what year we did that, but to understand that there are people who need to live in Incline Village. Speaking to a senior recently who had to move out of the area she would have loved and would have had an opportunity, if the timing was right, to have an ADU in a friend's backyard. However, the 1 acre requirement and standard wouldn't have allowed that, so she moved out of the area, and she had raised her children in Incline Village and had hoped to stay there. So that's just one of many testimonials that I have heard from folks who can't come to these meetings and can't speak up, as because they're working. I know that affordable housing is an issue for our sheriff department, and I know it's an issue for our librarians. We actually pay additional stipends for librarians to go up and work in Incline Village, and there are librarians who would like to live there. IVGIT employees as well. There's a shortage of IVGIT employees, speaking to the general manager and employees. And so it is a tough situation. Additionally, hearing from the principal at the school and the school district, they want to see more affordable housing in the area, and as well as the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District. So these are people who would like to live in the area ideally, and we got to find a way to make these developments pencil, because as we all know, this is not something that Washoe County is going to necessarily be able to develop affordable housing in Incline Village or Crystal Bay. And so I hear the trepidation by my board members and understand their concerns, but as you heard, there is a cap in development in the basin, and that we only have so many housing units that it would even be allowed in Incline Village and Crystal Bay. And so I would like to see that if we're going to develop more, it would be ideal if we could develop housing that our workers, who some of them are highly paid, workers that cannot afford to live there. These are even nurses who work for Tahoe Forest who would like to live in the area that they serve. And so that is why I did approve phase 2, along with obviously the majority of TRPA. And I commend the staff for finding ways to make this code more Incline Village, Crystal Bay specific. And I understand that TRPA did not move forward with those recommendations, but I think that it shows how thoughtful our staff were when they looked at these issues and really wanted to hear the community. And I also would like to remind the board, and although this is just a first reading, so we just need someone to read it into the record, but when we come to the second reading, there are many changes in this Tahoe area plan that need to happen anyway, and that are cleanup, that are also important to this board's, my understanding, this board's priority to ensure housing in the Washoe Tahoe area that are beyond the phase 2 amendments to support that in the Ponderosa area plan. So I will be reading this as the first reading and look forward to the second reading, but happy to hear any board member comments or questions before I do that. I'm looking down the line. I'm not seeing anyone. Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The county's always big on surveys. It looks like we've probably had more public speakers from Incline Village today than we've ever had. I didn't see anyone speaking in support of this, so I think that's a pretty valuable survey for everybody to take note of. I understand this is the first reading. There'll be much more discussion about this, but again, we should be looking at ways to do no more harm instead of doing more harm. All of these reasons, somebody as a nurse or somebody wants to live where they work. I get it. I want to live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, but apparently they don't want to buy me a house and let me move over there. So, why are we burdening the citizens up there with more traffic and causing the folks who live there discomfort? These are the folks that are already there. It didn't seem like anybody was in favor of this. I think if this was if Incline Village was a building, a venue, a concert hall, restaurant, bar, a fire marshal would probably close it down. It's probably too full already. There's too many people there. They're loving this place to death, and we shouldn't be a part of adding to more congestion up there. So read it into the record for the first reading, but I think that you understand where I'm coming from on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. And Dr. Young, just really quick to really go back into your historical database of working for the county for so long. I know when I started in 2021, you had told me when I had embarked on the Washoe Tahoe housing study, you said, Alexis, we did this. Was it in 2012?
I think.
Okay, and was this an issue during that time, the housing crisis?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commission, it's always been an issue, and the issue has been articulated by community members as to whether their service workers should have to go home at night, which means come back down here to the basin, or whether they should be able to live there. And there is within the community that very discussion. Some people will stand up and say they should just go home, drive back down to Carson, and some people will stand up and say, no, they should live here. And so that is an ongoing discussion there, and it's been an ongoing discussion for 20 years.
Yes, and I think in my role, and we all see, and what we saw from our study is that, when we govern, we all take on different roles, and I do think that what I'd like to do is not have someone say, why did we bring this forward to the commission in 2007 and the commission did nothing? And I'd like to do something. And I think this is a step in the right direction. And I also am a huge environmentalist, and And I know that new building is actually better for the environment and reducing vehicle miles traveled, getting folks into public transit, which density allows for, is the way to go. So with that, I just wanted to add that item, but I will move to introduce and conduct the first reading of Bill number 1934, which is an ordinance amending Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, within Articles 220 Tahoe Area and 221 Tahoe Area Design Standards as provided in Attachment A, further to schedule a public hearing and the second reading and possible adoption of the ordinance WDCA 25-0003 for August 26, 2025. Thank you, everyone, for your time on this matter, and we'll go on to our next item, which we have one block vote. Madam Vice Chair, if you could help us with that.
And yes, it's just one, and it's number 9.
Thank you so much. I'm looking for a second on that recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on item 9?
There is none.
Okay. Any other comments from the board on item 9? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And there it is. It's on your screen. Thank you very much. That motion passes unanimously. We'll now move into the public hearing part of our meeting. We will go into item 10. Madam Clerk, if you could help us with that.
This is not my item.
Oh, I apologize. Manager Thomas, could you help us with that? Thank you.
Sure. We're on item number 10, which is a public hearing subject to a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the regional planning authorities and a recommendation to approve a resolution initiating an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan map.
Great. Thank you so much. And does the board wish to see a staff report on this item? I'm seeing no, and
Yeah.
Vice Chair, yes. Okay. Then welcome, Ms. Wyke.
Thank you, Chair Hill and Commissioners. Courtney Wyke, Senior Planner. The item before you is Special Use Permit WSUP 25, -006 for Sunseeker Solar. The proposed project is located on 23 undeveloped privately owned parcels, approximately 43 miles north of Reno in the Honey Lake Valley. All parcels have a regulatory zone of general rural, a master plan designation of rural, and are located in the high desert planning area. The applicant is seeking to construct a photovoltaic solar energy system with up to 250 megawatts of power generation, a battery electrical storage system with up to 200 megawatts, and an on-site project substation proposed to be connected to a previously approved 345 kV generation tie line known as the Rainbow Way Transmission Corridor to the Nevada NV Energy Fort Sage substation, located on 1,128 acres of privately owned land. Above is just a schematic of the design of the solar arrays. The battery electrical storage system would encompass approximately 6 acres, and above is the site plan for that area. The proposed substation is classified as a utility services use type. The substation will be co-located with the battery energy storage system in the eastern corner of the project area and would connect to the previously approved GEN tie line, also known as the permit WSUP 23-0003 Prana transmission line, which runs approximately 5 miles south to the NV Energy Fort substation along the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency's designated Rainbow Way Regional Utility Corridor. Above is the overall site plan. The project does meet all required design standards and setbacks. This project meets the standard for a project of regional significance because it will generate more than 5 megawatts of electricity and will create a new substation. As a project of regional significance, this application requires a conformance review by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission. The proposed substation requires a regional plan amendment to add the utility use and site. This amendment must be sponsored by the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, which is the subject of today's hearing. The permit will not go into effect until after the regional planning authorities take final action. Staff believes the proposed amendment in SUP is consistent with the Envision Washoe 2040 Master Plan and High Desert Planning Area Vision Statement. A neighborhood meeting was held on January 20th, 2025. Notices were mailed to 81 property owners. 4 members of the public attended. All neighborhood meeting materials were included as Attachment E to the Planning Commission staff report. All agencies and county departments were sent the application for comment. No comments of concern were received. And appropriate notice was sent to approximately 77 unique property owners. 2 public comments were received in support of the project. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and was able to make all of the findings required and unanimously passed a motion to approve the special use permit and made a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Additional findings are required for projects of regional significance per Article 810, and those findings were also made. And with that, I have provided a possible motion for your consideration, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much. I will go down the line and see what questions we have. Vice Chair Herman.
So this must be the same, project as before, and it still overlooks Herlong, and it's still owned by Chinese people, a Chinese company. Is that the same people that had it before? Because we discussed this over the last few years.
Courtney Waike, Senior Planner for the record. I am not aware of the specifics of the ownership, but this is a new proposal that's tying into a previously approved transmission line, which was known as the Prana transmission line, which my understanding with that has changed ownership. But this proposal has not been heard before by, this is a new application. And I'm not sure if the applicant is not here. I was wondering if they might show. I'm not sure if maybe they're online to answer any specifics to the ownership.
Well, this seems like a deja vu thing, so I just thought I'd bring that up.
You're right. We did look at a transmission line in the same area. So yes, go on, Vice Chair.
So there was always those concerns, the ones that I mentioned, since China isn't exactly our best friend. So that was my worry and my concern about it before, and still is. Thank you.
Thank you. And Garcia, no. Commissioner Clark, no. Okay. We have public comment. Madam Clerk, this is a public hearing, so we'll open up public comment.
Scott Finley. I will distribute his documents. Go ahead.
Please enter my comment into the record pursuant to NRS 241. My name is Scott Finley. I am a resident of Washoe County and have a military background in the United States Air Force. The Board of County Commissioners must reject the resolution allowing a solar electric generation facility and battery energy storage system. Pursuant to NRS 241.020 subsection 7, a public body shall make available to the public at the time it posts the agenda the supporting material provided to the members of the public body. The application being used to justify this resolution wasn't even included with this agenda supporting material, and I could not find it in the supporting material of the Planning Commission meeting on May 6th. Ultria Group LLC submitted this application on behalf of Shreen Breeze Solar LLC, yet it is not authorized to do business in Nevada. Pursuant to NRS 86.544 subsection 1, before transacting business in the state, a foreign limited liability company must register with the Secretary of State. Even more alarming, Shreen Breeze Solar LLC is a California entity that is currently in default status with the Nevada Secretary of State, and for this reason is not allowed to transact business under state law. In addition, emails by Brent Moore show him as vice president of both Prana and Sierra Geotech, the listed consultant. However, Sierra Geotech too is not authorized to do business in Nevada, and its company website does not list him as vice president. The land involved in this application is owned by the Hooper Family Trust, with Charles Hooper as trustee. In 2023, this commission was warned that the ownership of Prana Renewables Energy LLC would end up being transferred after the special use permit went through. In May, Mr. Hooper sent an email stating that he is the owner of the Prana transmission lines project itself, despite this role not being disclosed in the application filed by Prana, an entity that has never been registered in the Nevada Secretary of State or with. These overlapping and conflicting roles raise serious questions about who is truly responsible for this project and the entire Prana transmission lines project. For these reasons, I urge you to vote against this resolution and suspend the application until the entities in question are brought into compliance and a formal audit is conducted on all applications associated with the Prana transmission lines project. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I hate to put the DA on the spot here, but what I was just wondering on this public comment and the documents, I know you just received them, what your thoughts are on registering with the Secretary of State and the land use question here.
Michael Larch from the District Attorney's Office, for the record. In regard to the ownership, what this board is here to decide is whether or not the subject is to find the conformance with the Truckee, to the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the regional planning authorities. You don't have oversight in terms of the Secretary of State's role in terms of those things. Those are in the business licensing. Even if it was a business that was licensed by Washoe County, that's outside the purview of what this hearing is about. The applicant or the applicant will need to come into conformance with Nevada to exercise business in this state. What you're doing is approving the regional map in this case.
Thank you for the clarification. So conformance with the regional plan is today's task at hand. Any other board comments or questions? Vice Chair, do you have anything else to add? No. And Commissioner Garcia? No. And Commissioner Clark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm glad you asked for the DA's opinion on this. I think that clarifies the point. I think if somebody has issues with this company, alleged company allegedly doing business or not doing business without a license, they should bring that up to the state of Nevada and let the state pursue that if that's applies. Is that a correct path for some of these folks that think this is taking place?
If they are conducting business in the state of Nevada without a business license and they need one, then that should be reported to the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. We have taken commissioner comments. We have taken public comment. I am looking for, unless there's any other discussion, I am looking for a motion on this item. I don't know if we can pull that. I am having a hard time getting the motion even pulled up on my staff report. It's like frozen.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the resolution to initiate an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Map 3 as outlined in the staff report.
And I will second that. Any questions on that motion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay, and it's on your screen. And that motion passes 3-1 with Vice Chair Herman in the negative. Thank you very much. We will now go to our second public hearing. And Ms. Thomas, if you could please read this in the record.
Thank you. Item number 11 is for possible action to conduct a public hearing under the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is TEFRA, and to adopt a resolution approving the issuance by the National Finance Authority of not to exceed $33 million of lease revenue bonds on behalf of NCCS UNR Fieldhouse Properties LLC for the purposes of and is required by the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, Section 14.7F as amended. I will point out for the board that these bonds are not a debt or an obligation of the county. The county's not a party to the financing of this. We don't bear any risk with this transaction. As a matter of fact, we do have a letter of indemnification from NCHE, or from the Nevada System of Higher Education, just for everybody's edification.
Thank you very much. And we just did this for Renown, so apparently 'tis the season. I'm looking to the board to see if there's any questions on this item, but before I do that, I'll just open it for disclosures. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to disclose for the record that I am employed by the University of Nevada, Reno. This item does not impact my role there at the university, and I do not have a pecuniary interest on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Herman, do you have any questions or comments? No. And Commissioner Clark?
No.
No. And Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on this
There's
item?
none.
Okay. With that, I am looking for a motion on item 11. And I would do it myself. My thing is frozen. I apologize for pulling up the staff report, so if someone could help me, that would be great. Well, then I will just move to approve, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Any questions on the motion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And it's on your screen. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We are now moving into item 12, our final public comment. Manager Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is your final public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person. It may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. And please remind everyone that comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Trista Gomez.
Good afternoon, Trista Gomez. My public comment today is just going to ask a lot of questions, and I'll put these in a formal email so that they are in a formal email. One of my questions is on the budget. It looks like there's a $21 million budget for CARES Campus. I am interested to know whether or not that includes the employees. And I would like to know how many employees are employed by CARES specifically, and how many employees are also employed by CARES peripherally that also interact with other agencies. That's one of my questions. I wasn't able to go to the CAB meeting that the Spanish Springs had, and while I was looking at the July CAB meeting for RTC, my question is RTC is the one who is in charge of the current projects out in Spanish Springs. They have currently given that project to NDOT. NDOT uses the development codes and the master plan from commission meetings. There was a lot of questions about all of the different ways that all of those roads are going to interact, and there is no answer to those questions. The reason there's no answer to those questions is because there's nobody that's specifically responsible for the entirety or the aggregate of that project. It seems like because it is able to be split out into so many different entities, nobody really can have to claim the responsibility for the safety issues, the traffic issues, the fatal accidents, the flooding in the ditches, and that's just in Spanish Springs, and then I have rounds out in the North Valleys that they deal with compromised water, sewage issues, flood insurance issues, all of the things that are happening. So it seems to me that I'm just trying to understand who's ultimately responsible. It seems like you should be, but I can't figure out who actually is. I have a question about the manager. Why are we calling Miss Thomas Manager Thomas? In many regards, they're often called interim manager Thomas or interim whatever the role is, until that role has been specifically given to that person. So I'm interested to see why we're doing that. I'm interested to see if there's going to be any surveys about Ms. Thomas's position with employees that she's worked with in the past. I'd also am very interested in to know any of the social relationships that she has with any of the board members, what those look like, how they are. I have actually more questions. I'm going to run out of time, but those are my questions right now, and I hope to get those answered when I put them into a formal email.
Doug Flaherty.
Doug Flaherty, private resident, Incline Village. I guess as I read this, I get to comment on anything on and off the agenda. So I just want to go back to this concept of if you work in Tahoe, you should be able to live in Tahoe. And I've heard Mr. Young at TRPA APC meetings espouse this equity concept. Equity is against the Constitution of the United States of America. Equality is part of the Constitution. Equity is being used nationwide to change zoning to allow just this type of approach that we're experiencing here. It doesn't work. It will never work. You will never be able to change the concept or change the effects of the market on Tahoe property. It's a socialist idea. It's a feel-good idea. I'd love to see workforce housing. But I'm not going to stand up here and say, oh, if you work in Tahoe, you should be able to live in Tahoe. That's absurd. The gorilla in the room is increased height density and coverage, which reduces evacuation times during no-notice fast-moving wildfires. The red herring continues to be brought up by Mr. Young and others. Oh, there's there's a growth cap in Tahoe. We're exceeding the cap. We just have a tiny little bit left, and after that, everything's going to be okay. That's a red herring. The issue is density and the ability to evacuate under constrained roadway conditions in Incline Village. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to our final item, item 13, Manager Thomas.
Thank you. This is your Commissioner, County Managers, announcements, reports, and updates to include board and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Do you have anything for us?
I do not.
Okay, Vice Chair Herman.
No, I think I took care of a lot of that yesterday with you. Thanks.
Okay, good. Commissioner Garcia. Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing for me.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for a great meeting. It's 12:45. We are adjourned.